Please note, we would like to make it very clear, we are totally against the form of discipline described in the articles and accounts being used on minors and non-consenting adults. Although some of these accounts are fictional, and others may be an exaggerated reality, none of them are too far from the truth of what really happened back in those days. If you are enjoying our stories, please do subscribe to this channel. We will be posting many more stories as time goes by.
My interests here derive from realism and two distinct school years in my schooling. We had one school year when an overwhelming percentage of the total school paddlings, including mine, occurred. Lot of reasons for that. But the other year that was memorable was what you reference here. At an earlier age, we had a teacher who was very serious about homework. She kept telling us that not turning it in was unacceptable. One day, she called each kid who had not turned in the assignment to front of class. She sat in her chair and they lined up to her right, our left. She took each one to her side, asked why homework was not done. Each kid shrugged and was immediately over her knee for 5/6 spanks over clothes. Not terribly hard but so embarrassing. I could not see her hit the butt, but had great view of their faces. Humiliation. I resolved then and there to do my homework. I only remember seeing boys receiving school corporal punishment in class. I never remember anyone, boys or teachers, referring to it as spanking. Spanking was what some parents did at home back then. I started grammar school in 1958. The whole class watched in amazement the first time a boy in the class was called to the front and told to bend over. Various teachers had different ways to punish: a plimsoll, ruler, even a short whippy little cane, and a few applied the palm of their hand to the seat of the boy's trousers. Some lads just bent over and took the whacks without a murmur. I presumed that these were boys who were spanked at home by their parents. Over the months we became used to seeing this happen. Then one day I was caught chatting during a lesson. I was called to the front and the teacher produced a plimsoll. He bent me over his desk and gave me 2 hard wallops. I don't remember being at all embarrassed, as I'd seen others take much the same from this teacher. My backside stung and it hurt when I sat down afterwards. If we had a new teacher, it was always interesting to find out if he used corporal punishment in his lessons and how it was given. Seeing other boys taking it in class was a bit of a diversion, particularly if the lesson was a bit boring. It was the more boring lessons that boys often talked in too. I remember once asking the boy sitting next to me what the time was, as I was hoping the lesion was almost over. The geography teacher spotted me talking and I was called to the front. Before I reached the front, he had already taken the plimsoll from his drawer. I was asked what I had said and told him that I had asked the time. The boy in the front desk was asked to stand to one side. He knew why and took his book with him. I was told to bend over his desk. The plimsoll whacked across my bottom 3 times. The whole class stopped reading their textbooks and watched. I'm not sure if they enjoyed seeing me taking the slipper, but it added interest to an otherwise boring lesson. Looking back, I'm not we enjoyed watching friends get spanked, but did revel in the nasty boys getting their just desserts. Also, if another boy was being spanked, slippered, etc., it meant you weren't. There was the sound that made everyone wince, but no one I recall ever made fun of a boy who got punished, as we all knew it would probably be our turn one day. As others mentioned, the ritual of having to walk back to the desk with bum on fire and avoid looking at your mates as you were being brave, I remember well. You're right, almost a sense of relief when another boy was whacked during a lesson. It was unlikely that the slipper or cane would be used again in that lesson unless someone really misbehaved. You mentioned nasty boys. I think some teachers whacked the persistent troublemakers harder than others. Like me, it would seem that you went to a UK senior school in much the same era as me, late 1950s, mid-60s. I have to admit that I did wonder at the boys who seemed to absorb whacks were used to being spanked at home, or they were just braver than me. I knew that some of my friends, particularly the ones from big family, were spanked at home but, of course, had no knowledge of others in my class. Hi 6. I'm a little younger than you, having been at school from 1970s onwards. born in 1964, so one of the last generation really to experience CP at school in the UK. You are right about the sense of relief that it wasn't you. When I was 11 to 13, year 7 and 8 nowadays, my form teacher ran a points-based system. Every started with 0. Get +5 and you got a reward, go to -5 and that meant a slippering. The scores were on display so everyone knew who was close to a whacking. Being on -4 was a nervy experience, and I remember my first time of getting the dreaded -5. The punishment was not given in class, but you did feel bad for or laugh at enjoy it, depending on whether you liked them or not, a boy who hit the mark. Our games master pinned a list with black edges on the notice board on which boys' names were added for a variety of infractions, e.g. dirty games kit, disobeying instructions, etc. If your name went up twice in 1 month, 3 hard whacks with a plimsoll over PE shorts. It was like getting a yellow card in a football match, but 2 yellow cards meant a red backside. 3 entries on the list would result in 6 of the best. Something to be avoided at all cost. I went through school mostly in the 70s, spanking banned after that, and I have no recollection of a formal spanking in front of a class, taken to office. You only saw a warning swat or a quick tap to hands with a ruler. So I guess looking back I did enjoy it if I found out someone I didn't really like got spanked at school, more like the ha-ha feeling, but in the moment, like the 2 witnessed spankings I actually heard that I wrote about here, 13 at time, I was much too worried concentrating on me going next. After the experience and reflecting of those 2 incidents, I did find some level of enjoyment, more like wow it's just not me, and curiosity of how they handled it bottom after, etc. And any I heard or saw at home around that age going forward. I guess you could say I enjoyed it from a morbid curiosity, unless the kid that got it was someone you disliked. The classroom always became eerily quiet when an in-classroom spanking occurred, unless it was the entire classroom getting it. It was interesting to see the tough boys get it because they did everything to not cry out. Mrs. Jones of my 3rd grade was quite the spanker, and she really laid into the boys, especially if they were of the tough variety.